Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today is Monday, June 15th, 2020, and this is the live stream. The topic of tonight's live stream, they don't feel like they have to. Understanding narcissistic arrogance. We will get started shortly. I'm super excited to have my internet back up and running. I can't tell y'all how happy I am about that, but we'll chat more. Welcome as you feel into the room, and we will get started soon. Thanks. Welcome as you feel into the room. For my tech geeks out there who might be interested in why my internet was down, apparently the cabling cord that I guess runs the whole thing, the one that they bury, they said something is chewed through it. So I don't know what that means. Mole rat, gopher, I don't know. So they had to replace that cord. So it was nothing with my modem, nothing with my router, but hopefully my internet will be smoother from here on out, because I think maybe that's been the problem the whole time. Something has been gradually eating away at the cord. And so my quality was low. So hopefully my quality is high. How is my quality, everybody? As you feel into the room, will someone let me know? Yes, I'm so glad it's fixed, y'all. I felt so frozen because your phone, it can work off of data, but they work best off of Wi-Fi. So my phone's been acting weird all weekend. I've been eating through my data because I had no Wi-Fi. So it really sucked. But we are back in action. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Sounds good? Awesome. We should be good to go from here on out. I think I've had a bad cord for a while, actually. So we should be good to go. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Just give me 1 second. We probably won't be here that long, you guys. I've just been so anxious to do a live stream. I just had to start getting them off of my chest. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. So today is Monday, June 15, 2020. Tonight's live stream, they don't feel like they have to. Understanding narcissistic arrogance. So the title might be like, huh? So I'm going to give some background and context on this topic, what the title even means, and all of that. So to do that, first, let me go ahead and share my screen. I find this picture hilarious because when I downloaded this thumbnail, y'all, I did not realize there was a hamburger in the seat, but somehow it just fits so perfectly with this topic that we're getting ready to get into. So like from a distance, if you're not paying attention, it just looks like a very decorative throne. You know what I mean? And it was only until I started putting this together that I realized there's a hamburger in the seat. And somehow that is actually perfect. So tonight's live stream, where did I get this title from? As many of you know, a few months back, I formed a partnership with a company called BetterHelp. I know everyone has mixed feelings about BetterHelp. I personally, and here's the review that I promised, and this is all related. I personally liked it. I liked it a lot. My favorite part was the fact that I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to get up. I didn't have to get dressed. I didn't have to get in my car, drive across town, park, pay for parking, try to figure out which one of these suites is yours, walk in. Didn't have to do any of that. Did it all from my living room, right? So I had a 3-month trial. So if I could say there are any cons associated with it, it would just be the cost. There is a promo code associated with my channel. You can find that in the description box. It will take off 10%. And yes, if you sign up, it will help this channel out. With all of that said, I would like to share with you all the the one thing my counselor said to me that stuck with me through all of our sessions, okay? What's bouncing? Logic Pro is bouncing. Stop bouncing, Logic Pro. Hold on. Let me switch screens really quick. This little computer and I just quit. I want you to quit. Yes. Okay. All right. So we had many conversations. Oh, let me switch here so you guys, those of you who are interested, can follow that link. She and I had many conversations. I liked her a lot. And if I had the money to continue, I would have continued. All right. Not sure what the last thing was that you guys heard me say. So I'll just back up a little bit. The purpose of me showing this is not a shameless plug, but it is to kind of round out the conversation that I started a couple of months ago, which was back in January. BetterHelp partnered with this channel. And I really like my therapist. My favorite thing about the whole thing is that I didn't have to get dressed to go anywhere. Okay. I think y'all heard that. And then I muted. And then I think this is where I was going to pick up. She and I had many conversations, but there's one thing that stuck with me more than anything else that she said. And that thing that she said is the title of this live stream. And what she said was, they don't feel like they have to. So let me explain what that's in response to and how that relates to narcissistic arrogance. Hello and welcome to everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you so much. So, there was quite a few different things I could have chosen to kind of focus on with her. But what I chose to focus on was like my workplace journey and why it's been so uniquely hard. Because like I've shared with you guys before, I'm not a lazy person. If you put me on the job, I'm going to see the job through. I have a deep desire to do so. And oftentimes I'll go above and beyond, even without them knowing, just to make sure the job is done well, because that's just how I am. If my name is attached to it, I desperately want the job to be done well. And it's kind of a principle thing also, right? So I said, why is it in spite of my work ethic and in spite of me demonstrating everything they've ever told us to do to be successful in the workplace, why do I meet such resistance? And so she kind of probed and said, well, what do you mean by resistance? I said, well, for example, if I'm in a meeting, often I'll get spoken over, I'll get interrupted, I'll get spoken for, things along those lines. I said, very rude behaviors, really. I said, why do they feel like they don't have to pay me the same respect I'm paying them? Or why do they feel like they don't have to listen like I listen to them? And she simply replied, oh, they just don't feel like they have to. And I know we had more of a conversation after that, but do you guys ever have those moments where somebody says something to you and then it's just like you're just kind of stuck right there? Literally, out of everything she and I discussed, that's the one thing that stuck out the most and remains with me. They don't feel like they have to. And I just, for a long time, was just like, wow, because it's a true statement. It's not saying that it's right or justified, but it's true. They don't feel like they have to do any of those things. They don't feel like they have to let you finish your sentence. They don't feel like they have to listen to you. They don't feel like they have to even entertain your ideas. They don't feel like they have to let you speak for yourself. Often, like I can't tell you guys how many times I've been sitting in a room and someone will ask me a question. And I'll start answering and my boss will scoop in and take over and finish answering for me. And what that does to a person over time, if you don't have the energy to combat that, is eventually you just sit back and start being quiet because it's like, well, you have all the answers, don't you? I figured you had all the answers, so why do I need to pipe up? But it's very diminishing and very rude. And her very simple explanation for it was they don't feel like they have to. And that one thing explains so much for me in my particular corporate journey. I've encountered so many people that simply just don't feel like they have to pay me the same respect that I'm paying them. It's one thing if I'm being very disrespectful to you. So you start to disrespect me because I'm disrespectful towards you. But when I'm showing you an appropriate and maybe above and beyond level of respect, and you don't feel like you have to return that, and I must say, I have received that treatment from men, women, Black, white, and Hispanic, and one Asian, actually. So the treatment has been pretty equitable in terms of who's been delivering it. The one thing I would say, with the exception of one or two, they all had in common is they were all older than me. So understand, for a long time, I attributed it to the generational gap. I was like, they just don't feel like a young person has anything to say of value, right? Of course, when you factor in all the other things it could be, it really turns into a nasty situation, right? But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss narcissistic arrogance and how they don't feel like they actually have to respect you, right? So that is all born out of my experience with my BetterHelp counselor. The link is there on your screen and in the description box if you're interested in signing up. All right. I would like to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a story time. Story time. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, it is harsh, but true. They don't feel like they have to. And before I go into the story time, understand that I'm the type of person who really tries to dot all her I's and cross all her T's. So I'm like, what do people not like in the workplace? Okay, let me try to be the opposite of all of those things, right? So in many ways, I aim for being the ideal employee because ultimately, I don't want you to have any complaints. And typically they don't. They can never, ever, ever, ever get me on performance. Work ethic, performance, they never can get me on those things. So what do they go after? My mood. Are you happy? Subjective things that can't really be measured and that you wouldn't believe even if I gave you an answer. You're not going to believe me. So because you don't feel like you have to listen. So anyway, my point is, when I say that I would go out of my way to make sure I'm not one of those employees that would be a problem, and then to still have problems, it tells me it's got to be personal, right? It is personal, but more than that, it's arrogance, and it's narcissistic arrogance in its purest format, one of its purest formats. So I'd actually like to give you a story time. Story time. Yeah, they like the sound of their own voice. So this happened at a tech company. And I was in the role of, I'll just say, I was in a training capacity. I'll just say that. And I was given the assignment of working with an individual who was on the software development team. And I'm actually going to use his name. You know why? Because his name is so common that there's no way you'd be able to nail it down. And if you did, I'd be very impressed. But his name was Chris. Hey, Chris. And they told me, you are going to work with Chris on this particular project, which was pulling the ideas out of his head and putting them into a format that can train other people. And I said, okay, that actually sounded like a lot of fun to me because I actually feel like I'm kind of good at that. Taking the ideas that are swirling around and making them logical and usable, right? So I'm excited. I'm like, yes, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be a great project for me. You know, it's going to be a really good thing for the company ultimately because they'll be able to train these employees on what's in this guy's head, right? So I get to my first meeting with Chris. And I'm like, hey, Chris, you know, nice to meet you. I'm blank. You know, I'm on the training team. And I think our bosses had spoken, so it wasn't a surprise. He knew it was happening, you know. I was like, I'm really excited to work with you on this project. I hear you have really great ideas. I can't wait to get those out on paper for you. He just looks at me, and this is virtual, by the way. We're not face to face, so we're over a conference call. He just looks at me and just starts smiling and nodding his head. And I'm like, do you like that? Is that good? Wait a minute, hold on. Okay, sorry, because I was about to laugh that whole entire time. Our first meeting, after I introduced myself, kind of gave just a little context on the project, I was like, what are your thoughts? He just looks at me, smiles, and is just nodding his head. Okay. So in other words, he did not verbally respond. I was like, okay. I was like, well, you're smiling, so I guess that's a good thing. Again, more smiling and nodding of the head. I was like, okay. And I was like, well, where would you like to start? I was like, my world is training, your world is software, so I literally wouldn't even know where to begin. Where do you think a good starting place would be for the guys and girls who are going to be training on your material? So he starts talking, right? But he's like, oh, I wish I could explain it to you guys. He just starts kind of going around and around, like in circles, right? In my opinion, intentionally to be confusing, right? But I'm doing my best to grab all the notes that he's like, I'm typing away, like, okay, got it, typing, like trying to capture everything, because I figure, okay, maybe I just don't understand because I don't know software. So I'll sort through these notes later and make them make sense. Then I'll ask questions, right? So after he spoke for like 10 minutes straight, no lie, about 10 minutes straight, this download, I said, okay. And I said to him, out of everything you just told me, what do you feel are the most important pieces for people to take away from what you just told me, right? Again, with the smile and nod, and I'm like, this guy is weird. And so I was like, okay, I tell you what, I'm gonna take these notes, I'm gonna look over them, I'm gonna review them with my boss, and then, you and I can circle back next week and we can kind of talk through our plan, okay? And he was like, yep. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, have a good day, bye-bye, whatever, call ends. So I immediately get on a call with my manager, and she was like, how did it go? I was like, thank you for the super sticker, Ronald. I appreciate it. I was like, I'm the first to admit when I don't know something. I said, so perhaps I just don't understand because this is software and code, and maybe I just don't know what he was talking about. I said, but the meeting was very odd. He didn't say much. He really didn't respond to like direct questions. He talked for 10 minutes straight, and then here are my notes. And she goes, yep. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, everybody's been trying. She's like, everybody's been trying to get him to do this. She's like, he doesn't want to. He's very resistant. He doesn't want to share his ideas. And then she goes, but more than that, he doesn't like talking to women. And I was like, so why did you send me in there? Like, wow. Like, isn't that illegal? So yeah, overcomplicating himself to make himself seem more valuable. I was blown away, you guys, like that she would even say that to me. So it must really be a thing for her to actually say it, because she would have had to have known what a risk that was to say to a female employee, he doesn't like talking to women. He basically doesn't like dealing with women, basically. And I said, well, why did you send me in there? And they're like, we thought maybe you could crack him. I'm like, I can't crack that psychopath. Exactly, Rainbow. Like, I can't, what would make you think I can crack that psycho? If he won't crack for his boss, he won't crack for his peers, you send me in, and he does the same thing to me that apparently he does to everybody, but especially women. Wow. You know? And like, apparently he was like this untouchable guy in the company because of what he knew. Everyone was like, oh, he's a genius. He's a genius. He's brilliant. He's a genius. He's gifted. He's a genius. We just need his genius to come out on paper so we can develop this training program for the people who are ultimately going to be on his team. And he refused to give it up. And I'm like, I wanted to say, you could have just stopped at he refuses to give the information up. But she threw in there, oh, also he doesn't like working with women. And I'm like, wow. Like, and my level of disgust still to this day, which is why I'm using his real name, is just like, you're so arrogant, so sold on yourself, so stuck on yourself, so narcissistic, that instead of you pushing your company forward, pushing your team forward, collaborating with another human who's willing to do all the work, literally all he had to do was just tell me what he wanted it to say, basically. And I was just going to put it in a logical training format that is usable for other people and usable for someone to teach. Right, it's all coming back to me now. Right, it's coming back to me now. Because when they would send people to him to train, people would walk away like, I'm gonna quit this job. This guy is nuts, he's insane. And they're like, no, 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 he's a genius. We swear he's a genius. He's just a little, you know, different or whatever. So they were losing talent because nobody could work with him. Then you send me in thinking I'm like the psychopath whisperer or something like that. But not only is he narcissistically arrogant, he also doesn't like to work with women. So why would you send in a woman? And like we've been discussing for weeks now, I could only imagine how he feels about race. Like if you don't like to work with women simply because she's a woman, I can only imagine how he feels about race. So I'm sure that didn't help either. But the point of that story and the point of this whole entire live stream is the essence of that narcissistic arrogance. It is the belief that I am better than you. I'm better than you. I'm more worthy than you. I am more deserving of things than you are. I don't have to treat you with respect because you are less than me. You are beneath me. Do you understand? I don't have to initiate phone calls or call you back or text you back. I don't have to reciprocate with you. You are beneath me. You are lower than me. Do you understand? They really believe in their hearts that they are more important and more superior to other people. And that is one of the roots of their narcissism, the belief that they are better than, more than. It's one of my, this would be a topic for a deeper PTE, which if you're not aware, I do have another channel called A Deeper PTE. You should check it out. But maybe this is why, one of the reasons why we die, to remind everybody, you're not that special. You're not. Maybe this is one of the reasons that we sleep. Of course, we sleep to repair our bodies, rejuvenate and restore and recuperate ourselves. But what if we also sleep to remind you? Like it's like a nightly humbling. Yeah, I know people go on benders. Yeah, I know people become insomniacs and can't sleep for days. Got it. But all things considered and all things normal, you're going to sleep. At some point, you're going to pass out. Eventually, these are the great humblers. Is there a different word than humblers? I feel like there's another word for humbling a person or whatever. We all die eventually. We all have to sleep eventually. We all have to eat eventually, right? We all have to go to the bathroom eventually. Eventually, you can fight it, you can wrestle against it, all you want to. Eventually, you're going to have to. And I think the equalizers, that's the word. Thank you so much. Yes, these are the great equalizers, right? Thank you for the super chat, Ronald. It says, I've had opportunities here. Let me start displaying my super chats when I see them. Boom. Uh-oh. I've had opportunities to be supervisor in the trucking industry. I choose to take the keys to the truck and just keep on trucking. Real talk. Thank you, Ronald. I appreciate it so much. I hope you are doing well. But yes, thank you. These are the great equalizers. It's like no matter how much money you have or don't have, no matter how many material possessions you have or don't have, no matter how nice your car is or you have no car at all, we all have great equalizers that humble us and bring us back down to reality. And I honestly feel like so many different life problems that we struggle with would be resolved and solved if people could simply remember this. No one is better than anybody. Nobody is more worthy than anybody. You see, this is the start and the beginning of so many problems, so many relationship problems, workplace problems, social problems. This is the start of it. Now, if you want to drift over into a deeper PTE a little bit, these are all characteristics of Satan. Haughty, arrogant, prideful, believes that he was better than even God. Like, you've got to be crazy. You've got to be a psycho if you believe you're better than even God. Want to wipe God out and take God's throne, right? When really you're just a hamburger sitting there. So it's kind of like they all originate from that, but we're not drifting on that side tonight. Let's come back over. You see? So really, guys, this is all I really wanted to say. Yeah, the belief that I am above you. You see what I mean? So it just stuck with me. That comment from my counselor, they don't feel like they have to. And I wish so badly I couldn't remember what we talked about after that, but it shocked me that it was almost like she was okay with that as an answer. And I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean by that is like it was a very simple answer and true. God, what am I trying to say? Like after I got through describing it, I was like, why is that? She said, oh, they just don't feel like they have to. And I think maybe I even said, well, why is that okay though? But I can't remember anything after that. Ugh. Damn my horrible, horrible short and long-term memory. Horrible, horrific. But I did latch on to that one piece. And it bothered me, and it still bothers me to this day, because it's kind of like if I had the opportunity to speak with them face to face and they actually would be willing to listen, I would say, why would you ever feel like I was less than? Why would you ever feel like you could treat me like that? Why? You know? And some people would be like, oh, you need to stand up for yourself and you need to speak up. And if someone interrupts you, you cut them off and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it all depends. Like really, for me, it has to be about stakes. And to me, the stakes typically aren't that high. They're not high enough for me to continue to battle you, if that makes sense. Like whatever we're talking about, usually I'll do my best to speak up about what I actually believe regarding it. And then after I'm either cut off, interrupted, or just generally dominated, I'm like, all right, well, let's go ahead and watch you take this thing off the rails. And that's exactly where it goes, off the rails. And this is why a lot of companies are struggling with any type of growth, development, innovation. God, I have so much to talk to y'all about. I feel like just kind of rolling into it a little bit. But it's totally unrelated. But I will say this. So many companies are struggling for this very reason. That there are people in the room who feel like their voices are more important than anybody else's. Who feel like, you know, if they don't dominate the conversation, then they're not being a leader, or they're not being a boss or a supervisor. Who take no notice of the fact that they've done. Yes, I disassociated in shock, Rainbow. Yes, sorry, I looked over at this really quick. I have to put this up. After she said that, I disassociated in shock. Yes, 100%. But who take no note of the fact that they've done 90% of the talking. and everyone else in the room has done like 10%, you see? So it's kind of like, how many companies are failing because of this? Because you have a narcissist on the throne, because you have anyone on a throne per se. How many companies are falling apart because no one else can ever get a word in edgewise? I can't tell y'all how important this is. I feel like this is what I've been harping on from day one. My very first video is called what? Narcissistic control technique, talking too much. That's my first video. Because it's so important. The communication element is so important. When people say they have communication issues, generally, in my opinion, what's really happening is you have a narcissist in the couple or in the group. Because there's no reason I shouldn't be able to speak words that you understand, you receive them, form a response, give your response, I receive it, form mine, and we go back and forth until we have an understanding. Like, to me, that's one of the most basic skill sets a person can have. Thank you for the super chat, Ronald. It says, in terms of talent, which I am, I never allow myself to feel as though I was better than anyone. I mean, because we're not. Like, we all have different things that we are better at than other people, but our inherent worth is the same. Our inherent value is the same. It is. No life is more valuable than another. And so it's kind of like the belief that one is the root of all of our problems. You know? Yeah, they're built on hierarchy. And that's so problematic. I swear, if I was ever a CEO, I would only hire people who have the ability to have conversations. If I can't talk to you and you can't talk to me, and we can't talk to each other until we actually reach a resolution, I won't hire you. I'm not asking you silly interview questions like, what's your favorite color? What animal would you be if you could be any animal? Tell me about a difficult situation and how you handle it. I'm not asking you any of that. You and I are either going to be in our office or virtual or over some food that I'm paying for because I invited you. And we're just going to talk. And based on how that interaction goes, which should take place over the course of 30 minutes to an hour, will determine whether or not I hire you. Because to me, if you can communicate with a person, you can accomplish anything. Thank you for the super chat, MCer. It says, gotta let the narc self-destruct. It's inevitable. It is inevitable. Indeed. Okay, so that's all the content I have. I know that was a super short actual show, but I'm going to go ahead and get into your comments really quick, and then we'll get out of here. And then I might be back later on tonight because I am so wired up about so many different things. I have so many thoughts regarding so many different things that I wanted to start firing off on Saturday. But my internet was out, y'all. Jeez. I feel like that's a public safety issue. You can't have computers. Anyway, welcome everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome. I missed you guys. I wanted to talk to you this weekend, but I couldn't. Oh, I have so much on my mind. Okay, let's see here. Oh, yeah. I mean, the shutdown, and the funny thing about the shutdown is then, after you shut down, because you've been cut off, interrupted so many times, and you just start staying quiet, then the next series and rounds of questions are you okay? Is everything okay? And it's like, you would love to say, well, not really. Every time we're in meetings together, you guys interrupt me, you talk over me, you never let me finish my thought. So no, I'm not really okay. But they can never actually understand or receive that. So you're just like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I hate it so much, y'all. I can't even tell you. I try to watch panels all the time on YouTube, like when there's groups of people just talking about different topics. But when they start interrupting each other, I'll just click off. I won't even try to finish the show because sometimes people are saying something and I actually want to hear what they were going to say, and the person will just jump in and cut them off. And I'm like, I can't. It's one of the main reasons I couldn't watch Oprah after a while, y'all. When Oprah was still on, you know, I was like almost everyone else, not everyone else, but a lot of people watched her. But in her last couple of years, like she would just cut off her guests, talk over them, interrupt them, finish their sentences. I couldn't handle it. I was like, this is their moment. Like, let them speak. Let them speak. Please let them speak. Yes, this is the new disrespect. The new disrespect is non-acknowledgement. So just pretending like you don't exist. Oh, look at that. Pretending like you don't exist. Permission to exist. I have permission to exist. You're going to acknowledge that. Let's see here. Right, it says, just goes to show how important you or anyone else is. They dismiss you because it doesn't feed their need for supply, right? Like, oh, and it bothers me so much, y'all. Just, it still bothers me that the comment, the meaning behind it, they don't feel like they have to. And it makes me wonder, in how many other ways has this played out? Like, has this played out in my relationships also, where something has occurred that's truly disrespectful, and when you call them out on it, you know what I mean? Of course, they deflect, run from the issue, all of that fun stuff. But did the disrespect occur in the first place because they simply don't feel like they have to respect you? They don't feel like they have to. And that's why it took place to begin with. You know, it's all rooted in narcissism, yes, but the decision to make the disrespectful or take the disrespectful action is born out of the fact that they simply don't feel like they have to respect you. I don't doubt that either. It says, yeah, because those demons are intimidated by you, probably. I think they are, y'all. And it's weird because, like, for one day, I would actually like to interact with myself as someone else, because I feel like I present, especially in person, I'm much more outspoken and vocal on here than anywhere else in my life. So in person, you would probably think I'm extremely quiet. And it's not that I mean to be, it's that I just often find myself in a room full of people who want to hear themselves talk. So I just let them. I'm like, oh my God, maybe if I let them talk, they'll exhaust themselves. I'm often around people who think that their voice is the most important voice in the room. And I don't have the energy to combat it or battle it, or usually the stakes are really low. But anyway, I say all that to say, I am not like a threatening or dominating or intimidating person in any respect. And that probably does not help. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes people are intimidated by me, and people have actually told me that before. Like, one of my coworkers once told me, "Oh, you're very scary." She and I were having a conversation. And I was like, "Why didn't you just come to me? Why didn't you come talk to me?" And she was like, "Oh, you're pretty scary." I said, "Girl, boom." I should have jumped at her and gone, boom, just to blow her over. But I'm like, why though? Like, nothing about me screams scary. And I know that's not fair because you guys have never actually seen me before. I know that's not fair. But I'm telling you, nothing about me screams scary. Like, you know, like you wouldn't like face off with me and be like, oh, it's like if you and I got in a fist fight, you probably would think you would win. You know, I probably would think you would win, right? That's what I mean. Like, you wouldn't pass up on me like, "Ooh, she looks frightening, I'm going to go the other way." You'd probably come closer and like, "Oh, this one's easy." And maybe that's why it happens. Like, maybe I just have that look, like maybe I look like a duck. And maybe what scares them is they find out really quick that I'm not. I don't know, y'all. But I do know that I make demons hop. I know that. Boy, I make demons hop out of people. It's something that happens all of the time. I make those demons hop right out. And usually I don't have to say a single word. And that's the point that I was trying to get at, you guys. Intimidation aside, threatening aside, half the time I haven't said anything and the demons start hopping. There's a demon hopping now on my channel. I'm surprised she's not in the chat. Let's see here. Let's see. Says, please, please, please do a video on how lazy they actually are. They do very little work, but talk a lot to make it sound like they do a lot. They really are lazy. They're fundamentally lazy. And a lot of people disagree with me when I say that, because they're like, well, the narc I know is always running here and running there. And I'm like, the lazy that I'm describing is like a laziness of heart and mind. They're fundamentally lazy. Oh. So yeah, I might need to do a video on that to clarify that. Interesting. Hide. There we go. Okay. Says, ugh, God, so weird. That made me so unruly, because I'm like, understand. Here we go. I was asking him direct questions. I was like, so is there somewhere you'd like to start with this project? Do you have a vision in mind for how you'd like it to go? Is there a certain structure you had in mind? Like, I'm here, I'm your resource, like literal resource. This wasn't about me, this was about him. His boss told him, you need to get this training program done, and we are going to pull this individual from the training team to help you. This wasn't about me, this is for you. So I'm asking him direct questions, and literally he would just smile and nod, smile and nod. I'm like, okay, this is making me feel very weird out. And I told my boss, and she was like, yeah, if you knew that, why would you send me in there? You could have told me that ahead of time, like, hey, I don't think he's going to be very open to this conversation, so just be prepared for that. I don't think he likes to work with women, so be prepared for that too. Good luck. But no, they just sent me in as if it was already decided, which is why I went in with such enthusiasm, like, hey, nice to meet you. Oh my goodness, Logic Pro is still acting out over here. Hey, nice to meet you. You know, I look forward to working with you on this. I'm here to help you. You just tell me what you need, and I'm here to just put it on paper and structure it. And he literally was just smiling and nodding at me. Now, if I had come out, you see, then they would find. Now listen here, I'm not here to play games with you, okay? This is my job and it's your job too. You better answer my questions. Now, how would you like to proceed on our project, Chris? If I had gotten rough with him and aggressive with him, then everybody would have been up in arms about my positive attitude. I think my mic muted. I have no idea what the last thing you guys heard me say, so I'm just going to move on. God only knows. Let's see. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think he was a misogynist for sure. You don't like to work with women. He doesn't like to work with women. I wasn't even giving him orders. I was literally asking him questions, and he didn't even want to work with me to that extent. Like, it felt awful. And truly, I had like some sort of like case, but I didn't feel like following it up. I didn't have the energy at the time, and I couldn't prove it because she said it verbally. So all she would have to say is, I've never said that. But you did. You did. Well, the thing about it was, so the question is, doesn't anyone else know the software? Apparently it was like his. I don't understand how it works 100%, but apparently it was something only he knew. So it wasn't like a specific software he knew that a whole bunch of other people did. This was something only he truly understood. And that's why they needed him to train people on it. But when they would send people in to train with him, essentially he would do the same thing to them. He would just talk in a big circle. And they'd walk out like, if this is going to be my training and if this is going to be my boss, I'm not doing this. No, absolutely not. So they were trying to formalize what was in his head. And they sent me in, I guess, as a last resort to try to crack him. And he just looked at me and smiled and nodded. I'm like, okay. And I think I may have been muted, but if not, what I said, or if I was, what I said was, now, if I had gotten loud and aggressive and mean and rough with him, then everyone would have been in my face about my positive attitude. You know, I need to check. It says, is he still can't, or he can't still be employed there. I need to check. He probably is. And if he is, that's a perfect example of kind of overall the big problem. Like, some people are so protected, man. So protected. They get away with murder. They don't have to be cooperative in meetings. They don't have to work with women. They don't have to anything. And they still have jobs, still can get hired pretty much anywhere. And then those of us who have to navigate around individuals like that are the ones always having to explain ourselves. Why did you leave your last job? Well, I can't tell you because I had a guy that worked there that didn't like to work with women. So what am I supposed to do if he's flat out refusing to work with me because I'm a woman? Like, how can I make any progress in the role? But you can't say that in an interview. You have to say something like, I just needed new growth opportunities. You love lies. You're addicted to lies. Addicted to lies. Maybe we could start to make changes in this country if we start telling the truth more often. I left that company because they harbored an individual who refused to work with women. And they were okay with it because apparently he was some genius. Your genius is going to get you sued. Since they aren't really geniuses and they don't share the info because they know they have, okay, wait. They know they have just one weird thing. They aren't really geniuses and they don't share the info because they know they have just one weird thing they did that one time and don't want to be found out for the frauds that they are. Exactly. I can't even read it without laughing. And you know, honestly, the more I think about it and the way you phrase that, maybe that's exactly what was going on. Maybe he really wasn't this big genius he made himself out to be. He just talked a good game enough to get in this like pretty high position in the company, enough to be protected by everybody. But no one had figured out yet that maybe this guy is lying. Maybe he doesn't actually know what he's doing, or he just did that one weird thing that one time. And now that someone, especially me, oh, I'm going to get it out of you. Because when I'm designing training, I'm designing it with trying to make myself understand. Because if I'm in the room, I promise you I'm the most confused. So I'm designing it for the most confused person. So I'm pulling it out of that head because I need to be able to understand it by the end of it. And I would have if he had been willing to work with me, but he wasn't. And I don't think he had anything to offer me. And maybe that was it. Maybe that was the final test for him. I don't know. He was still there after I left, but you know, maybe they were just trying to see, okay, let's bring in the new girl. There's no history there. You know, there's no like long-term weird political beefs with her and like the team. She's fresh. She's brand new. He doesn't know her. Maybe he'll talk to her. Nope. I'm not Iyanla, y'all. I'm not. Okay. Let's see. I'm not a psycho whisperer. Let's see. It says the fact that nobody understands you doesn't make you a genius. Exactly. And as a matter of fact, isn't it the opposite? Aren't geniuses supposed to be able to explain very complex things very simply? Isn't there a quote for that? One trick ponies. Yes. Oh no, oh goodness no. It says, do I still work for this company? God, no. No, I left. I left when they decided that they didn't want me there anymore, but they had absolutely no grounds to fire me. So what they did was change my job parameters. So what I mean by that is, so working with Psycho Boy, Smile Nodder, was just one piece of the role. My main role was to, dang, I don't want to give away too many details. I don't want to reveal myself. Let me see. I'll just say host a training in my home city. How about that, right? So my primary role was to host a monthly training in my home city. That's what was told to me in the interview. That's what I had done from the day that I started to pretty much the day that I quit. And I was told, because I asked, because I've been traumatized in this area, I said, is travel going to be required as part of this role? They said, no. We want everyone coming to this particular city because we want everyone to have the same experience for this particular training. I said, okay, great. That's perfect. Because I didn't want to travel, couldn't afford it. And a lot of companies are not willing to pay for it. That's a whole nother story. So anyway, once they decided they didn't like me anymore, what they did was change this particular training I was doing to New York City. And just know that I don't live in New York City and I don't live anywhere near New York City. So getting to New York City was going to be a monthly journey for me. And also, they don't pay for, or weren't going to pay for hotels up front. They also weren't going to pay for rental cars up front, nothing up front. Everything was on a reimbursement basis, which is why I didn't want to travel in the first place. I don't have $2,000 and $3,000 to float to go to New York City once a month and then wait 6 weeks for you to get me my money back. I don't play those kinds of games, you guys. I don't. You're either going to pay for it up front like you do everyone else, like you do for your C-suite, like you do for your executives, like you do for all these other people. You're going to pay for me up front. And then I'll submit for incidentals like food. I don't expect you to pay for my food, although some people do stipends up front. You don't know what I'm going to eat, so that's fine. I'll submit for my food on the back end. But no, so they changed it to, hey, this training that you're doing is moving from your city to New York City. And we're going to need you to travel to New York City once a month. And no, we're not paying for a hotel or rental car or anything up front. I said, okay, well, can I get a raise then? Can you give me a $2,000 raise to absorb and offset the cost of traveling to New York City once a month? They said no. They said no. I said no. So, like I always say, kids, life is simple and easy. You don't want to pay for my travel up front? All right, well, good luck hosting your program. Find somebody else. And you harbor people who don't like to work with women. So bye. I should have quit immediately after that. But I stayed because it was a pretty decent gig until they switched it to New York City. And I live nowhere near New York City. Nowhere near. Not even close. Let's see. Right. I can only imagine what's happened since. I guarantee that training program never came into being. I guarantee he's run off several other people. He didn't run me off. The switching the travel ran me off, which is a very subtle way of getting rid of somebody without actually firing them. Nice guys, slick, but I like it because it shows that, hey, you can nail me on performance. You can't. You can try all day, but you will never nail me on performance. So they have to get me in other ways, and that's how they got me. Like, oh, we know she doesn't want to pay for travel, so we'll just force her to travel. And all of that is against the law. And I actually really looked into suing that company. But y'all, where my head was at the time, I just didn't feel like it. I just didn't have the energy. Wasn't interested. And I do believe they're currently self-destructing, so that's perfect. They're self-destructing in this pandemic. So I mean, perfect. Let's see here. Yes, you have to remind these monsters that they are not God. Man, I meant to do a video on that a long time ago. Narcissists think they are your God, specifically. Narcissists think they are your God. And that's part of their biggest problem. Let me put up this other picture because I think that's a perfect backdrop. They think that they are your God, you know? And so if they think that they are your God, why would they ever respond to you? Why would they ever feel compelled to show you respect? I am your God, you show me respect. Even though theoretically that's not how God technically is, but like God is supposed to be love, but we're not getting into all that. My point is they think they are your God, specifically. Since we need to stop giving these narcissist names and give them numbers, since they're not human anyway. Refer to them as numbers. Narc 1.0. So Chris will be Narc 1.0. And the next one I describe will be Narc 1.1. Let's see. Right. It's like, what did your boss expect since he doesn't like women? I think they really were just thinking she's new, because I really was pretty new. I think they put me on this project on like week 3 that I was there. So I think their theory was he doesn't know her. He has no reason to resist her. She's really nice, because y'all, I promise y'all, in spite of what you may believe, I'm actually a very nice person. I'm very sweet, because I believe that no matter how I feel about you, I'm still going to treat you with respect and courtesy and kindness, because why not? You know? Now, I can have all kinds of thoughts about you, but you would never know, because I just don't believe in treating people nasty for no reason. So they probably figured she's a nice person, she's new, he'll talk to her. Nope. I'm like, I'm still a woman though. I'm still a woman though. Yeah, and you know what? I've heard that since, that tech and software is so competitive, and I guess y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently like you can write code. Like, can't you copyright code? Am I wrong in thinking that you can actually copyright code? So if you can copyright code, that means that there's an element of intellectual property there. So perhaps he just felt the need to protect his intellectual property, but what he didn't understand is that this was the company asking for this. This wasn't the training team. This was his boss and his boss's boss saying he needs to start training these new hires on this and stop running them off, because he was running them off. I don't understand how they thrive either. I'll never get it, because some of us literally cannot make a single mistake. Not one. But some people can actually openly declare that they don't work with a specific gender and still have their job. So you tell me. I still like this comment. Yes, after my therapist said they don't feel like they have to, and now I can't remember the rest of the conversation. Yeah, I disassociated in shock, because I was like, wow, that's really it, isn't it? They just don't feel like they have to. They don't have hearing problems. They're not excitable. They're not extroverts. They're not going to forget what they were going to say, like a lot of people like to say. They just don't feel like they have to. I think I've told you guys this before. This was years ago, but I'll share the story again. One time I distinctly remember, this is a different company. Sitting in the room, it was my boss, my boss's boss, and 2 of my peers. So there was like 5 or 6 of us in the room. And someone asked a question. I'll just say, to make it easy, someone said, like, what are the first 10 letters of the alphabet? And I was like, A, B, C, D. My boss just cuts in E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and as she's going through the rest of the alphabet, I went, wow, I wasn't speaking at all. And she did not hear me. So she either didn't hear me or she didn't care that I was talking. Like literally, as I'm reciting the letters, and this is just the example, as I'm in mid-sentence, she cuts me off and continues and never circled back. Never came back and was like, PTE, did you want to finish your thought? I'm so sorry I cut you off. What were you going to say? Never circled back. Never came back to it. And I was just like, wow. And I was so pissed that I actually said out loud, wow, I wasn't speaking at all. And she didn't stop. She didn't slow down. She didn't go, oh, what? Like, nobody said anything. She just carried on with the conversation. And I think that was one of the days that I knew, yeah, I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to quit this job because I can't take that. Like, I can't tolerate. And I'm not the type of person to keep constantly being like, as I was saying, as I was saying, as I was saying. No, I'm not going to wrestle you for this. Mm-hmm. All righty. Let's see. Hey, PGTT, how are you? Thanks for joining. Right. If you can't convince them, confuse them. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Dang, my comments jumped, as they always do. There's a lot of them in here, too. Let me see if I can work my way back. Yeah, here it is. Okay. If you can't convince them, confuse them. Exactly. Give them the old razzle dazzle. Razzle dazzle them. They can't see with stardust in their eyes. And I'm like, I have on goggles. I can see through all this little stardust. Now, are you going to stop playing games or are we going to do this? It says, arrogance is the scourge of modern society. Thank you for calling this out. And I do believe good wins. Absolutely. Doesn't feel like it some days, but I think good is the natural order. So the natural order always has to come out on top. Yes, arrogance is the scourge. People just feeling like I don't have to. Oh, I don't have to treat you like a human. Let's see. Yep. It says they keep the narcs and promote them and they run the good people away. Yep. And that's why a lot of these little startups and these little tech companies, but any company really, fold. This is why they fold, because you harbor narcs, you provide a safe haven for them, and you run the good, hardworking people away till eventually all you're left with are narcissists. And we know narcissists are not creative. We know that they're fundamentally lazy in spirit and in truth. And they don't want to work really. They want the title, but they don't really want to do the work. And so when you finally run off all the people who are willing to do the work, your company collapses. When you don't listen to people, when you feel like their voice is not valuable, you feel like them finishing their sentence isn't even valuable, your company collapses. Because sometimes they're actually trying to tell you something that could help you save your little company. They don't want to hear it, and they especially don't want to hear it from you. And especially if they think that they're above you in any meaningful way, they don't want to hear from you. All right, let's see. That's how your boss hired you, conversation over lunch. I'm telling you guys, you can accomplish anything. Anything if you can talk to someone for real. I mean, a real conversation. You can accomplish absolutely anything. Anything, but most people can't do that these days. Let's see. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. It says, I think you're wonderful. Your voice is very easy to listen to, and your videos have helped me through situations in the past 2 years. I'm so glad. That makes me happy to hear, because there are days, y'all, I'm telling you, I get so discouraged. Like with everything that's going on, I get discouraged, man. So it's good to know that they are helpful still, or helpful at least at some point. Oh yeah, and then they love to pull the sensitive card. Oh my gosh, I just got an idea for a card game. Someone will probably steal it, that's fine, because I don't have the time, energy, or money to trademark it right now and push it out. But we should make a card game that's all about narcissistic responses. So there's 2 decks, right? There's like the U deck and like the narc deck. So like from the U card or the U deck, you would pull a card that says, you started being quiet because the narcissist always interrupts you. And then like the other player has to pull a card that would most match what the narc would say to that. You see? And the narc in that situation would say, oh, you're so sensitive. Oh my God, I think that would be brilliant. I think that would be such a fun card game to play. Like just pulling out different life scenarios that happen to people and how narcissists respond. And I guess the objective of the game would be, I don't know, to pull the best one that's the funniest, that makes people laugh the hardest. I don't know. It's kind of like apples to apples, if you've ever played apples to apples. I think that would be fun. Oh, Oprah interrupts so much. And I really started to lose respect towards the end. Like, not in the beginning. I didn't really notice it much in the beginning. But in her last years of the show, it made me feel like, why do you feel like your guest isn't important enough to finish their thought? Like, I know they had to go to commercial breaks, but to me, the way you work around that is you tell your guest, okay, we have 7 minutes for the next segment. This is the question I'm going to ask you. You know, speak for about 5 minutes. Then around 2 minutes, I'm going to hop in, blah, blah, blah. Like, you have to kind of prep it, if you will, you know, and I'm sure they're used to that. But to just invite someone onto your show that I assume you wanted to hear from and then continuously interrupt them, it was bizarre to me and strange and just so rude, man. So rude. Like, please let your guests finish. I watch YouTube videos all the time of people interviewing people, and I'll be like, this would have been a great interview had the host not kept interrupting. The name of the other channel is A Deeper PTE. So 3 words, A Deeper and PTE. The letter is PTE. There's only a few videos on there, but they're decent. They're decent. Let's see. Yes, it's invalidation also. Like, whatever you were going to say is not that important. Can't be. Couldn't possibly be that important coming from you. So I don't need to hear the rest of it. It's like, okay. That's my favorite response. Okay. I am a Capricorn. It says, are you a Virgo? I'm a Capricorn. A raging Capricorn, if I do say so myself. I wish it wasn't so accurate, at least with me. But yes. Let's see. Oh, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Like, it's one of the things that drives me the craziest. It's one of the reasons I love this channel so much, and I appreciate you guys so much, because you guys let me get my thoughts out. I can't tell you how often in this life and in my day-to-day life, I cannot. Or I have to rush, like bum rush. Like, I have to go super fast because I know this person's attention is getting ready to go, you know, because I'm not worth holding the time for, even though when they need to speak, they'll hold an hour if they need to speak. But if I need to tell a story that lasts longer than a minute, like, I can sense their impatience, if you will. So anyway, I appreciate you guys for letting me get my thoughts out. Let's see. Let's see. Hey, Sun and Sunflowers, welcome. We're just in after show mode, talking about the arrogance of narcissists and how that's one of their driving factors. That's one of the things that gets them in the most trouble, is that arrogance. Intelligent with boundaries, and that's very scary to them. I think so. Like, I like to think of myself as a little kitty cat. And the thing about kitty cats is, you know, they're very, very cute and cuddly and fluffy and what have you. But most kitty cats have claws. Most cats have claws, okay? And they're not out usually. They're soft paw, but they will bring them out. They will. And when they're through putting you back in your boundary marker, they pull their claws back in, and they're just as sweet and cuddly and fluffy as before, as this little puppy has learned. Somebody asked about the puppy. She's doing great. and her sisters are training her very well. And it's amazing how much more she respects the cats than she respects me. Now, isn't that something? But you know why that is? The cats have very, very firm boundaries that are enforced with claws. See, I'm not going to claw my puppy in the face. I might boop her nose, not hard for my animal people. I don't hit her. I might tap her little nose and say, stop that. Stop that. What are you doing? Stop that. And that's the problem. I boop her little nose. The cats will claw her little nose. And that's why she respects the cats more than she respects me. But we're getting there. We're getting there because mommy is not going to claw her puppy's face. I think it's this too. So it's like, here's what I think it is they figure out about me very quickly is that based on the questions that I'm asking them, they can tell that I'm kind of an orderly person. Now, don't get me wrong, y'all. I have areas of my life that are disorganized, that stress me out because they're not organized, okay? But overall, I am a very orderly, systematic kind of person. And I think they pick up on that. And what happens is they realize, uh-oh, if she keeps asking questions, she's going to figure out that I got nothing. Oh, there are days that I still think about like either becoming an attorney or I'd really like to be an investigator. Let me investigate. Put me on one of these cold cases, man. I promise you I can crack it. I promise you I can crack it. Oh, I promise you, because I can creatively go there. I know how these psychopaths think. See, people like to put all these sensitive little, bandages around these psychos, like, oh, he was traumatized, whatever. I'm like, I know that thing is running off pure demon strength. Let me investigate. But anyway, I think they realize very quickly I'm going to recognize that this is a sham. You understand? I will say, and I've admitted this before, sometimes I can be duped initially because I'm a very excitable person. So you can get me with a little glitz and glamour. I'm not going to lie to you. You can get me a little bit. I'm like, oh, wow, they really got something fancy going on here. Okay, cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, neat. All right. Well, I look forward to being part of this. But as you dive in and dig a little deeper, you discover it's all smoke and mirrors. And I think that they recognize that I recognize there's smoke and mirrors. It's almost like, have you guys ever had that one person you can't lie to? Not that you're a liar, but that one person who, no matter what, the truth, you just tell them the truth because you feel compelled. Like you feel like they would know if you were lying. I think I'm that person for people. Let's see. Oh, welcome. Says, I love your channel. This is my first live. Welcome, welcome. Oh, and for everyone who may not know, I do have a Twitter now. It is at Exist Permission. Go check it out and follow, please. I haven't followed back in a while, so I need to go on a follow back spree. But yes, do please follow. A woman being direct equals aggressive and not a team player. Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny because like I've noticed how often we women have to put like smileys in our emails. Like if we're going to say something that's kind of direct and there's really no other way to say it, we'll have to follow it up with like an LOL or a smiley face or something to just soften it so people don't think that we're just speaking like I'm just coming at you direct, even though that's the easiest way to get a message to somebody is direct. We always have to soften it up so people don't feel threatened and intimidated by us. It's so annoying. I'm so tired of it. Says he won't dare have a woman break it down. He's really not a genius. His plan has holes everywhere. He wouldn't be able to handle that. Exactly. Because he knows ultimately when he and I get off the call, I'm going to go look at everything and be like, this doesn't make sense at all. I know I'm not a software engineer, but this doesn't make sense at all. Like, and he knew I was going to take that to my boss and say, I did what you told me to do. Here's the information I was given. I apologize. I cannot make sense out of this. And then she probably would have taken it to her boss. And before you know it, it would have been discovered this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's smoking mirrors. Let's see. Oh yeah, over there. No matter how you respond, if a toxic person is your superior, you'll get blamed. You'll be called too quiet, too loud, too aggressive, too silly, too serious. Exactly. Exactly. Which is why I've worked really hard on being my 100% authentic self in these workplaces. I try to stay out of them these days. But when I do find myself in these types of environments, I'm like, you know what? No matter what I say, it's probably going to be misinterpreted. So I might as well just say exactly what I'm thinking. You know, and if they start blushing, then hey, you know, within appropriate measures, of course. But I'm tired of candy coating. I'm so tired of candy coating. Like if you listen to some of my earlier videos, you can tell that I was still trying to like be gentle with my language. I think I still got my point across, but I was still very, very gentle with my language. And I just can't do it anymore, you guys. Anymore, it exhausts me. It's very draining to not speak freely. And there's still a couple of issues I need to speak freely on. And I just can't yet because the backlash is going to be too intense and I'm just not ready for it yet. Let's see. So I think Jeffrey Dahmer was a genius too. So what? Right. Like this genius is going to get you guys sued. You're lucky I didn't sue you. I wonder if the statute of limitations is run out. I'm sure they'd be interested in times like these, but I'm going to let it go for now. I was going to do a whole show on this, interviewing and how you have to lie and the questions that they actually tell you or they coach you on how to answer these questions, which are basically all lies, you know, with the exception of like, tell me about a difficult situation you had or something like that. But the whole, why did you leave your last job question, in my personal opinion, it needs to go. It needs to be completely wiped from the conversation because the point of the matter is I'm here, aren't I? You have an opening and I'm here. I'm available. That's all that really matters. All that really matters is that I no longer work there because you don't want to necessarily double dip if it's like a conflict of interest. But all that really matters is I no longer work there and I'm available for you. Let's talk. Let's talk business. Because when you start asking questions like that, number one, it's kind of a personal question. It's not kind of none of your business in a way. But number two, you force me to lie. You force me to lie. How do I tell you one of my companies was engaging in unethical business practices and I just refused to participate in it? How do I tell you one of my companies told me flat out that one of my peers just doesn't like working with women and therefore I couldn't complete my project because he didn't like working with women? How do you tell them that? How do you tell somebody that you're being treated differently based on your age or treated differently based on some other factor? You can't, because then they say you're negative. Then they think, oh, she might go tell the next company after us about us. Well, not if you're not doing those things. You see how it gets to be a tangled web? That's why we just need to do away with the conversation altogether. I no longer work there and I'm available for you. What's up? Oh, this is sad. It says, narcs love to hold on to information as a power tactic. My narc dad died with family recipes in his mind. Rather than share with his children, now those recipes are gone forever. They died with him. That's so sad. And that is one of the casualties of dealing with narcissists in general. Though there are different kinds of losses. Like people tend to think of the loss of life, which is sad, the loss of relationship, which is sad, but sometimes it's like a loss of information, family information. Like how many families didn't pass on valuable information like names of grandparents, names of great-grandparents, names of uncles, like information. And then some of them would be willing to tell you, but you can never get a word in edgewise to actually ask the question. So you never get it out of them that way either. Yeah, it was like working with the Joker. What a weirdo. You know what I should have started doing? After he did it the first time, I should have taken note. When he did it the second time, I should have just started doing it back. Just sit there and just smile and nod right back at him. I can be weird too. You want to be weird over there? I'll be weird over here. That's what I should have done. I was trying to make a good impression. Apparently he wasn't, he didn't feel like he had to. Let's see here. Oh, absolutely. Yes, 100%. This is so prevalent, y'all. Like when I do entertain the idea of going into law, I would absolutely 100% focus my legal practice on workplace bullying, the laws surrounding employment, the things employers can do and can't do. Oh my God, that would be my whole focus. Because like I've stated many times, and I'll state this before, I do believe in work. I believe in working. I know everyone can't be self-employed and start their own business, which means we are heavily reliant on the jobs that are available through corporations and other businesses. So because of that reliance, and because we need money so badly, work should not be a place where you go to get abused. It's almost like getting abused at well, that's a bad example because they do it too. God, is there anywhere, let me think, like at your massage therapist, like you go to get a massage and you walk out feeling like bullied and demeaned. Like, no, we're not here for that. This is supposed to be a very clear contract, and it has become so personal and intertwined. We're almost done, y'all, though. We have 10 through 12 to go on corporate cults, so we are going to finish that book. I am determined. Yeah, I hate cheap companies without corporate Amex. Say hello to the people. Oh, I don't know if y'all heard that, but she said hi. Yeah, don't have your employees out here floating expenses, floating this and floating that. That's so tacky and cheap. I think if anything America should strive for the future, we need to strive to be classy again. We have lost all of our class. And I don't mean class as an elitist. That's not what I mean. What I mean is class. Some grace, some style, some dignity, but above all, some class. It's very classy to take care of your employees' travel on the front end. And it's probably cheaper too, I would imagine. Very classy. That's a very classy thing for you to do. You see what I mean? It's very classy for you to allow someone to finish their sentence and show them that respect. That's classy. That's very classy. If Mr. Smile Nodder had any class about him, he would have been like, hey, the new girl, I'm going to help her out by giving her my project. Basically, he would have been dumping it on my shoulders, but it was fine. That's kind of what I was there for. You know, she'll look good. I'll make her look good by virtue of the information I give her. She'll make me look good by virtue of the information I gave her. It'll be a win-win. Very classy way to welcome someone into the company. Hey, let me collaborate with you. We've lost all class. We are a classless society. Classless. Let's see. Oh, y'all have a lot of thoughts on this. I love this. I love the communication going on here. Let's see. Okay, so you can copyright code. Okay. Oh, but it belongs to the company. Touche. I see. So that's why they're so protective over it. Well, he needed to say that. Listen, I'm not giving it up, guys. Let it go. For anyone who's just tuning in, long story short, I did a story time of a gentleman who refused to work with me because I was a woman. And in our first and only meeting, instead of answering my questions directly, he would just look at me and smile and nod. So yeah, so that didn't go very well. I did. So I had a very brief, the question is, you go to therapy sessions, are they helpful? I had a very brief trial with BetterHelp, for 3 months, and I did have a counselor during that time. Are they helpful? Yes and no. And that has more to do with me than anything else. I think I just got too much going on. I think I need like the counselor's counselor. But anyway, I find that my issues, I feel like, are complex and very layered, and they're just not ready for that. I think they're ready for standard anxiety and like standard stuff. And yeah, But at the same time, like one of my issues that I brought to her was what I shared with you guys earlier. Hey, I feel like I'm presenting in a very professional manner. I don't understand why I'm getting this response from people. And her telling me they just don't feel like they have to do those things. They just don't feel like they have to. So to me, that's not a mental problem. Like, so now I feel like I'm not crazy. Like, okay, well, at least I know it's not me. Because I would hope that she would be like, well, you need to be more professional. You need to complete, whatever. But she's like, no, it doesn't sound like it's you. It sounds like they just don't feel like they have to. Wow. Okay. So are they helpful? Yes. Overall, yes, mainly because it gives you someone to talk to, which I think is more important than almost anything else. Even if they don't have all the answers, which they often won't, at least you had someone to talk to bounce your ideas off of. So if I had the money to continue, I absolutely would, but I just can't chuck that out right now, unfortunately. But some of you do have the money. So I say go for it. If you can afford it, it's not that expensive. I think I don't want to misquote. It's less than 300, but definitely more than 2. It's like 240. I don't know, y'all. For a month. So, because it's like $50 a week, or I don't know. You see why I didn't want to quote it? I'm sorry. I forgot the actual numbers. But you can follow the link. You can find out. And if you can afford it and you think it's worth it, I say go for it. I enjoyed my time. She definitely gave me a lot to think about. Let's see. My comments jumped again. Oh, yeah. The card game could be called Fun with Your Narcissist. Fun with Your Narc. Oh, y'all, don't get me started. I might cook that up in my brain. And part of the game is to like show you the absurdity of the communications with these people, and also help people maybe even recognize either how they've been dealing with a narcissist or their own narcissism. Like, oh man, that's something I would say. Dang. And then maybe the back of the card or something, or the front, why it's like problematic. Do I want to use? Yes, that's what I've been using. This thing here. Oh my God. Sometimes I feel like my computer is trying to drive me crazy. Wow. Absolutely no one told you to do this. Nobody. There we go. Okay. Because they're a guest. They can only speak on my command. That's so haughty. It's so haughty. Like, ugh. I couldn't do it. I couldn't even watch the show. And apparently a lot of people have noticed that in the past. You think we're twins switched at birth? We could be related. Who knows? Who knows? You never know. It's nice to know that other people are out there who think in a similar way, though. All right, we are going to wrap up here soon. Exactly. You see, JT9000, you get me. It says cats are killers. Cats are killers. Wait, I can't. Cats are killers. Cute little cuddly killers. Hey, you said it, not me. All I'm saying is they have claws, and they generally don't hesitate to bring them out when you are crossing a boundary. So for example, I know out of the 2 of my cats, which one of them I can pick up and which one I can't. I learned that very, very early on in the relationship. Yep. And I don't violate that boundary and I don't get clawed. You see how that works? A lot of these people who get clawed up by their cats, refuse to respect their cat's boundaries. They try to turn them on their back. They try to hold them like babies. And some cats will let you do that, but a lot of cats will not. They don't like it. They don't like to be on their back. It makes them feel out of control. So they are not down, and they will let you know with their claws. So keep forcing it. You're going to get clawed, and I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad for you at all. Oh, let's see here. Well, and it's not that I don't get this. It says there's nothing wrong with protecting yourself from companies trying to get you to train yourself out of a job. It hurts you, and people you train are getting cheated out of better pay. So it's not that I don't get that, but I think at minimum what he could have done is stalled with me. He could have been like, hey, I really appreciate your help. I haven't given it much thought, and I really want to make sure that I give you something you can work with. So can we circle back on this next week? He didn't have to completely act like I wasn't talking to him. You see what I mean? He could have been like, hey, my thoughts are really jumbled and I want to get them organized. So let me work on that and I'll get back to you. I wouldn't have pressed it. I wasn't going to press him. It wasn't my project. It was my project, but it really was his though. So really, if it didn't get done, the only way it wouldn't get done and it'd be my fault is if he gave me all the information and I just failed on my end. But if he won't even give me the information to convert, well, then it really doesn't fall on my shoulders. But I just feel like he could have handled that better. I understand how competitive it is in tech, but you don't do that to somebody. You don't completely ignore their questions, sit, nod, smile like a freak and a weirdo. You don't do that. It was weird. It made me uncomfortable. Let's see. I'm telling you, I could crack some of these cases, y'all. I'm telling you I could, because I know how these crazy people think. And see, the detectives on the case, they would never, you see what I mean? So they can't even imagine certain scenarios because they can't imagine how these people think. But part of the reason I know how they think is because a lot of them just tell me. They tell me in the comment section of the videos where like they're going off on me. Like they really give me a lot of insight into their thought process. And much of it is very, follows a pattern in many ways. So once you pick up the pattern, you can pretty much figure out almost anything. Yeah, they're laughable. It says job interview questions are laughable. They're just so ridiculous. Usually not related to the role at all or what they need at all. Usually has more to do with whether or not you're going to fit in with the group, which I personally think should be illegal. But we're not here to talk about that. Let's see. All right, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up because I might, God, I hope so. It says the next uprising in this country will be against corporate America. Listen, if I could ever get people to understand what the problem really is, the real revolt will take place. Like I know the cities are burning right now, but God, it's so misguided. I wish I could explain to you how misguided it is. It's the wrong target, is what I'm trying to say. It's almost like if you were chasing someone and they ran into one of two houses and everyone converges on the one house they think that they're in, but the culprit is actually in the other house hiding, hoping you don't figure out that you're tearing up the wrong one. God. Oh, if I could ever get people to see you're aiming for the wrong target. Wrong target. I have so much to say. But I hope so. Let's see here. Yes, we need to get back to class without pretense, right? Not class because you think you're better than somebody. Class for the sake of class. Like, oh, somebody asked me to do a live stream on what my ideal guy is, and I'm still going to do it, but I will answer one of the things for my ideal man is he's classy. And I don't mean that in a feminine way. He's a classy guy. He's a class act. He's a class act. Woo! You want to get mama going? Put a class act in front of mama and listen. That cop I dated, I know a lot of y'all aren't happy. I dated a cop a couple years ago. Listen, on top of being fine, he was a class act, darling. You can't put a class act in front of mama and expect me to behave. I love a good class act. I love classiness and not the bougie, pretentious, think that you're better than someone class. Not that class, real class, genuine class that kind of can't be purchased. Let's see. And I hear you. It says, if you act like prey, you'll be preyed upon. And I understand what you're saying. But there's a part of me that kind of likes to see who the predators are. Because if I act like a predator, it'll scare all the predators off. And then when I let my guard down, I'll be caught off guard by a predator. But if I act like prey and a prey animal, woe is me, little bunny rabbit hopping through the forest. Maybe you never discover that bunny rabbit. Well, no, wait. Then the bunny rabbit gets to see who all the wolves are, right? You gotta call them out. How else will you find them? Class is godliness. Yes. Manners. Yes, good manners. You put a well-mannered man in front of me. Listen. Civilized. This is one of my mother's favorite words. Either civilized or uncivilized. She'll say, oh, they're just so uncivilized. Oh, that's funny. I'm telling you, it hurts. It says, I had no one listen for years. I'm crying. I'm telling you, it hurts. Nothing is more diminishing, or I was going to say emasculating, but that relates to men. But I'm kind of trying to apply it to men and women. Emasculating, just feeling like people really think you're not worth listening to. Not even a couple of sentences. Let's see. Man, y'all's comments are so good. I don't want to hang up. Hold on. Let me see here. Yes, they do. It says, I believe that many leaders are so addicted to the fluff, the flattery of narcissists, that they value that above the actual work. Yes, they do. Right now, if you're a young person listening to this, maybe someone who just graduated from high school virtually, which personally I think is really cool, but I understand the devastation of not doing the actual event, but I still think that's pretty cool. That's very 2020. I like it. If you're a young person listening, listen to me. I know you may have been told that hard work ethic, and all of those things are what's going to get you ahead in the workplace once you come out of college. And I'm here to tell you, as of right now, this could change because life does change. But as of right now, in the past few years, the trend has been the better you're able to fit in with the cult, the further your career will go. You will have to look the other way. You will have to keep your mouth closed. You will have to give up your voice and your personality and your interests and your goals and your dreams and all of those things. And if you're willing to do that, you will be very well employed and you won't have many problems. Now, at some point, you might actually be asked to be a cult leader and kind of enforce these rules on the newcomers. And hopefully you'd have some sort of ethical conflict at that point, but you might not. And if you don't, you'll get promoted. So I'm telling you right now, I mean, you could really do C work and be fine. As long as you are willing to play this game with these people, you will go far. Now, in many ways, that means selling your soul, as I just described. But if you're willing to sell your soul, you'll be fine. You'll be completely fine. You'll be employed for very many years. Hey, Yessa, how are you? Let's see. You think this is what it is? I think, you know what else I think it is? The quote on the screen says, PTE, you know more than a therapist. What else I think it is, they're very restricted by their book knowledge, but also a lot of people could never. And what I mean by that is a lot of people are very gentle, delicate flowers on the inside. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I really don't. What I mean is their minds cannot conceptualize of some of the madness that's going on out in the world for real. They don't ever explore it. They don't consider it. They don't read those things. Like, for example, there are some comment threads that I read under some websites that some people would never, oh, they would never, as soon as they start seeing all those curse words, all the racism, all the isms, they're going to click off like, oh, this is just disgusting. This is toxic. I don't want this. And the thing about it is, I'll read through it because I have to understand how you think this. I want to understand, number one, the zeitgeist, which means basically the overall cultural temperature. I need to know the zeitgeist. I need to know what people are saying, what people are thinking, what mantras they're telling themselves these days, what new lies they're telling themselves these days. I need to know it all. And yeah, sometimes that's buried up under a lot of curse words and racism and all the isms. Yeah, sometimes it's like a cesspool. But the more you read, the more you start to understand how these people think. And that's the key. And when I say a lot of people could never, what I mean is they would never go read something like that. It's filth to them. And it is filth. It, by and large, is filth. But in that filth, you get so much insight that you are not going to get in your textbooks. And I think that's the difference between me and a lot of these folks is I feel like I have so much more context to go off of, whereas they only have what they've been working with their people and what they read in their books and in their studies, and that's it. And they have to put those two together, and they don't always tell the whole story. Okay. Okay, so I think I have read through most of the comments, and I'm getting ready to go do my favorite thing, which is what I was supposed to be doing all weekend. I'm so upset. I feel like I lost my whole weekend. But basically, I'm going to go watch the playback and read all of your comments on the playback. Is that crazy? I feel like, is that insane? Like, do other creators do that? I feel like they don't. And you know why I think they don't? They never, ever, ever change their approach. Because I feel like if they were actually reading people's feedback, you would see those changes and those tweaks in their channel. Like if you watch my channel, you literally, hopefully, have seen an evolution from the beginning to now. And a lot of that comes from you guys' comments and your feedback. So that makes me believe that they don't. But I also still really wonder, do any of the other creators just go listen to the playback and watch the comments? Like, do they ever reflect on what they actually said to people? I don't think they did. I don't think they do. And I don't think they did, because if they did, they'd start to make adjustments. But anyway, you guys, I have really enjoyed this time. I missed you this weekend. So I'm glad we were able to get this one in. And I'm so wound up that I just might do another one later on tonight. It all depends. If I do, it'll be late. It'll be like, what time is it now? It'd be like around 9 or 10. So I might, but I also might not. So don't hold me to it, but you might get lucky and get another stream tonight. You said that's a little crazy. I can't help it. I want to know what I said, and I want to know what you guys said. I can't help it. Anyway, y'all have a wonderful evening. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.